Hi, and welcome to a Mother's Fire study group on what prompts to use to empower yourself for family court. Are you facing a family law case and feeling overwhelmed by court orders, legal procedures, or violations of your rights? You're not alone, and we're here to help. Are you navigating a family law case involving custody, domestic violence, or divorce? Feeling overwhelmed by legal jargon, court orders, and constitutional violations? Join our family law study group and take control of your case. This study group is for educational and entertainment purposes only. We are not attorneys and we do not provide legal advice. Participation in this group does not create an attorney-client relationship. The materials, templates, and guidance shared are intended to empower self-represented litigants to understand their rights and navigate their cases more effectively. For specific legal advice, please consult a licensed attorney in your jurisdiction. Neither the organizer nor participants are responsible for the outcome of any legal actions taken based on the information provided. We always recommend that you seek out an experienced professional to guide you before you make any decisions. By participating in this study group, you acknowledge and agree to these terms. So these are some copy and paste prompts for ChatGPT to act as an expert family law attorney. And if you don't want to write them all down, just know that I'm working on a workbook. And if you're following me, you'll know when I release it, and it will have all of these prompts in it. It will also have um, uh, more prompts that will allow you to do everything you can with OpenAI to empower yourself to fight back in court, including taking care of yourself financially, physically, and emotionally. So we'll start with um, case evaluation prompts. So if you are in need of a case evaluation and you have Chat GPT, you can write this into your Chat GPT. That's basically what a prompt means. It means a question that you ask your GPT. You would ask it, quote, I need a case evaluation regarding my family law matter. Please act as an expert family law attorney and ask me one question at a time to gather all necessary information. Focus on issues related to constitutional violations, state and federal statutes, procedural fairness, judicial canons, and the best interest of the child standard. Let me know when you've collected enough information to provide a detailed response. 2. Timeline of events prompt. Help me create a clear timeline of events for my family law case. Ask me about specific incidents, dates, court orders, and any relevant violations of my rights or the best interests of my child. Ensure this timeline highlights any significant legal issues I need to address. This will help you walk through how to create your timeline and will point out all the significant legal issues that you need to address. You can also ask it after that to provide you with templates. This is the next prompt. Quote, provide me with templates for all motions I may need to file in my family law case. Ensure the templates include the following sections: title, caption, statement of relief requested, introduction, legal arguments, constitutional rights, judicial canons, rules and procedures, statutes, and conclusion. Let's start by identifying which motions I need to draft. Um, after you would give that prompt to your GPT, um, you can continue to fill out each one of the motion templates by asking it to start with one and then say to it, quote, now, thank you. Now ask me one question at a time until each one of these motion templates is filled out. Then you will go back into the template, and for each section that matters, like jurisdiction, conclusion, you wouldn't do anything, but conclusion, argument, relief requested, any of that, you would want to, excuse me, copy and paste and put into your GPT and put act like an expert family law attorney in this jurisdiction. That would be your state and county. Um, and help me rewrite this argument or conclusion or relief requested so that it is clear and or points out my constitutional rights violations, any judicial canons, rules, and procedures, statutes, etc., to help strengthen my argument, provide case laws if and relevant statutes if needed. Um, so in order to get which constitutional rights were violated, you would put, quote, I believe my constitutional rights have been violated in my family law case. Help me identify which rights may be at issue. For example, due process under the 14th Amendment. That's huge because without proper due process, almost everything is in violation. Um, and that would require you to take it directly to the appeals court at that time. Equal protection, that is also really important, and parental rights. You can provide case law examples like relevant statutes and legal language, and you can use that you can use in that I can use in my arguments, unquote. So in order to get a strong argument around the child's best interest standards, um, you could put something like, quote, analyze the court's decisions in my case based on the best interests of the child standard. Ask me questions to identify if the court has ignored relevant factors like safety, stability, education, or emotional well-being. Help me incorporate this analysis into a motion or appeal. So if procedural fairness has been an issue, um, which it often is, the prompt that you would want to use would be something like, quote, evaluate whether procedural fairness was upheld in my family law case. Did the court follow state rules of civil procedure? Were all parties treated equally? Ask me for any specific details you need to analyze potential procedural violations and include them in a legal argument. And one more thing, just to kind of clarify all of these, before you ask this prompt that I'm giving you, always put, unless you have a specialized GPT that is trained to act like a lawyer, always put act like an expert attorney for family law in this jurisdiction before you add these prompts. If you're looking for legal strategies, you could say, quote, develop a legal strategy for my family case law. my family law case, excuse me. Ask me questions to clarify the key issues, applicable laws, and evidence I have, then guide me step by step on how to draft strong motions, appeals, or other documents to address these issues. Um, 8 is evidence and documentation. So if you're unsure how to organize your evidence, or what evidence you have, you could say, act as an expert attorney in this jurisdiction. Help me identify and organize evidence from my family law case. Ask me about documents, witness statements, or other evidence I have. Ensure the evidence aligns with legal standards and strengthens my motions or arguments in court. Then help me put together a evidence packet um, for my case, step by step, by asking me one question at a time. You might need to use the following attachments and attach your any motions, recent motions that you have that will help provide contextual basis for the GPT. So if you believe there was abuse of judicial discretion in your case, many feel like that. You would put, quote, help me evaluate whether the judge in my family law case has abused judicial discretion. Ask me for specific examples or decisions, then analyze these against judicial canons, ethical standards, and procedural rules. Provide me with the language to include in motions or appeals. Unquote. If you're trying to do something with relocation or custody, you could do something like, quote, act like an expert attorney in family law and this jurisdiction. Help me address issues related to relocation or custody in my family law case. Ask me about the details of the relocation request or custody dispute. Then guide me in drafting a motion or response that references state and federal laws, best interests of the child, and case law. Unquote. So, so once you have gotten it to analyze and do a lot of the strategizing for you, you've pretty much got the meat and potatoes for all of your motions. You've uploaded all of your recent court documents into the GPT. You can do that 10 at a time. And the GPT prefers PDF documents that have not been scanned in, that are actual digital copies. So try to get the digital copies of all of them to make this easier on your life. Um, and then I'm going to give you a step-by-step guide for each section of a motion to make sure that it's drafted efficiently and clearly. So kind of like I said before, but just a little more thorough. So um, first, they're going to automatically draft the title and the caption for your motion, including the case name, court, docket number, and type of motion, especially if you give it jurisdiction. Make it legally appropriate and professional. You're going to need to take anything that it gives you, a motion template, for example, and you're going to copy it. Then you're going to go into Microsoft Word and you're going to open a legal pleading template. So you're going to go to Microsoft Word, you're going to open a new document, but you're going to do a new document from a template. You're going to you're going to search legal pleading. Then you're going to pull that up, and in the body of that legal pleading, that's where you would copy your motion that you just drafted. Then you're going to go to each of the sections and you're going to copy one section at a time. For example, introduction, summary, argument, conclusion, statement of relief, etc. And then you're going to go back to your GPT and you're going to say, act like an expert attorney, write a clear and concise statement of relief requested, for example, for my motion. Explain exactly what I am asking the court to do and why. Be sure to include any relevant arguments. If this was the body of the argument, you would say, make sure to include uh, the judicial canons, state or federal constitutional violations, ethical standards, procedural rules, case law, anything that would help you argue your make your argument. Um, and then you can take what you like and piece this together. Um, if you do it in this way, you're going to get better responses than if you just ask it to create one lump sum of a motion. Even if it does ask you one question at a time and it seems fairly clear, just make sure that you're going back in, doing your due diligence and going to each one of the sections and really reading through and making sure that you understand what it's talking about. You understand each of the laws that you are using, and you can even ask your GPT if you're missing anything in that section that might be a violation or something to strengthen the argument. You want to lead with one good argument, and then any sub arguments you would kind of vaguely mention, but make sure that all your emphasis is on the one that seems to violate the most, um, the hierarchy of laws. So, like, for example, if you're in the lower courts, the lower district courts, you would want to point out what state constitutional rights that it violated along with everything else, but lead with your state constitutional violation. When and if you take it to the federal courts, you would want to point out more so the federal constitution violations along with the state constitutional violations. Second, um, you can ask it to draft an introduction to your motion by providing a brief summary of the purpose, legal grounds, and key points that you will argue. Um, So let's see. To get more of an argument around constitutional rights, you could put write the section of my motion addressing constitutional rights, reference specific rights, for example, 14th Amendment due process and relevant case law, including persuasive legal arguments and examples. So the case law would be the persuasive legal arguments and examples, because what you want to say or what you're trying to do is you're trying to say, well, this court found that this ruling on this law was fair. So that's the legal standard or whatever. Judicial canons. You could ask it something like, help me draft a section on violations of judicial canons or ethical standards. Include references to the ABA Model Code of Judicial Conduct or my state's judicial standards. And then you would tell it what state you're in. Um, you could get something around rules and procedures by using the following prompt. Um, Act like an expert attorney, remember that, in this jurisdiction, and write a section for my motion that cites any violations of procedural rules, reference state rules of civil procedure, and explain how these violations impacted my case. Then if you want to argue statutes or case law, you could say, quote, to act like an expert attorney in this jurisdiction, provide a section for my motion that includes references to state and federal statutes relevant to my case, cite case law that supports my arguments, and explain its significance. So you can also get it to summarize the legal arguments by drafting a conclusion for your motion. Um, and you would just use the prompt, act like an expert attorney, draft a conclusion for my motion, summarize the legal arguments, restate the relief requested, and include a closing argument urging the court to grant your motion. Um, and then if you use specific keywords kind of guiding it to what answer you need, and you kind of know how to include all of the context without putting in any extra words, um, you're going to get tailored responses that are specific to your needs. But if you're vague in your prompts to a GPT and you don't tell it how to act, you don't tell it how not to act, you don't tell it what you're specifically looking for, you're going to get vague responses back. So I hope that helped. Thanks for joining today. If you thought this study group was useful, subscribe and follow. And remember, coming soon, I will have a complete guide to navigating family court workbook. I hope that you would find that useful. Join my social media groups or follow along on this journey of empowering ourselves for family court with open AI by subscribing to this channel. And hope you have a good night. Thanks for joining.